Cool. Well, why don't we get started? We'll start with doing team introductions. My name's Justin Call. I'm the CEO. To my left is...
Hi, I'm Jackson. I'm setting up the manufacturing center here.
To my right?
Yeah, my name's Orion. I'm working on the drone design and the flight testing.
And then Scotty.
Yeah, I'm Scotty Morrison, and I'm running the marketing, bringing this product to the market, telling our story.
Tim.
I'm Tim Handley, and I am the chief pilot, hopefully organizing the testers and getting that drone dialed.
Nice. Okay, so a few things. The other intro here, in case you're just joining, one of the feeds, it's my name, Justin Call. That's a feed from my phone. That's the actual drone hovering right now. It's quite cold here in upstate New York, and it's very windy. I think it's probably close to 15 knots. So you're seeing a live demonstration of its ability to resist wind. We're going to let that run through the webinar so you can see that. We're also going to, after the webinar, continue the flight test and do an endurance test. So you can choose to come back and look at it and see how its performance through the day. The other thing before we get started, if you have questions, just jump in and ask them. Scotty's going to moderate. You can drop your question in chat or just go off mute and we'll go from there. Sound good? All right.
Or you can hit the hand, and I'll get them that way. But yeah, we want this to be interactive, participatory. You don't need to wait.
Yeah, don't have to wait. Cool. All right. The format here, I want to do a quick company update for you. And then many of you asked questions. We didn't take all of them, but we kind of took a group of them to answer on the webinar. And that'll also highlight a few things that we'd like to talk about. And then, of course, as Scotty mentioned, if you have questions, just jump in. All right, so let's dig into it. Company update. Many of you know this, but I'll repeat it anyways, because of our blog posts and news releases about us. We were in stealth mode for about 2.5 years, and then we went public just this last March. So we've only been active for about 6 months, if even. And so in that time, we've been very fortunate in that we've had many investors approach us about investing. So we actually were able to close our seed round in record time in August, and then we closed the round. We signed the round in August, and we closed the round about just a little over a month ago. So we were oversubscribed, and we had to turn away investors. So we're shamelessly prideful of that. The other thing we're shamelessly prideful of is that we applied for and we received and we were awarded a manufacturing grant from New York State to build our production center up here in sunny, warm, upstate New York. And so that grant actually started just last week. And so we're starting to burn that down and build our production facility, which Jackson is the head of. And then the last thing to note, we've been very fortunate with channel partners. Initially, to back up, we weren't going to go after the defense space, but lots of military experts advised us that the military is facing the same problems as commercial drone operators. So they want long flight time, they want radically lower cost, way less expensive drone, and they want something that's modular, something that they can change in order to meet different missions, which is what Modovolo is all about. Those are the top 3 value propositions. So 2 very sizable defense contractors approached us about using our drone as a platform for their technologies that then they want to then go sell into the military. So we're very excited to announce that we have 2 of them already, AIS and Andro. We will also have channel partners in ag and in geospatial. We'll announce those in future webinars. So I'm going to transfer to Orion. He's our CTO and co-founder. And so he's going to monitor the drone and also answer your questions at the same time. Let's see how he does.
All right. Yeah, my name is Orion. So I've been flying RC planes kind of my whole life, gliders, helicopters, and then in the Air Force, I worked on drone development there, and then I moved into the commercial space after that. And so this is just kind of flowing out of that. So how do we get the long battery life, long flight time? So the whole thing is kind of an optimization on multivariable. So it's a genetic algorithm. So the propeller is genetically optimized to be, the minimum amount of power to make the required thrust. And then you pair that with, you got the rims there, or the ducts, and those are going to be a little bit taller on the production version. So normally you get a big vortex on the tip, and basically you get that lift for free when you have a duct there. And normally ducts are, the weight penalty is usually really severe. In our case, because of the design, it doesn't really cost you much. And the gearing allows you to use a lightweight motor to run at kind of its optimum, and then you can kind of optimize the motor and the propeller separately, and then you gear them together. And the gearing is also very efficient, just being an internal gear, and it's only like less than 5% loss through the gearing, which was a nice surprise there. And when you plot out the flight time, the charts, I can predict that with the algorithms, and it's becomes very apparent that you want to have really lightweight, and the lighter you can get it, the more flight time you're going to get. And so it's really like a flying battery in a way. Like the battery dominates the weight of the drone.
Yeah, just to underscore that, the whole entire drone that you're seeing without batteries only weighs 2.5 pounds. With batteries, it weighs about 7.5 pounds, and the weight is distributed on the outside, actually in the lift pods, which creates a lot of stability.
Yep. You do the next slide.
All right. If there are any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the next slide.
So building on that last one, so how do we get the duration and the payload? So when you have a really low discharge rate on your batteries, normally with batteries you have to kind of pick, do you want high discharge or high capacity? And so the discharge rate right now per lift pod is like 4 amps, so 16 amps total, and that's without payload. And the whole drone is 40,000 milliamps, and there's better cells available now from Amprius that we're going to use. So the discharge rate in terms of C rating is very low, and that's kind of unusual for a drone. Normally you have pretty high discharge rate, and then you wouldn't be able to use the battery cells that we're using because of that.
Yeah. So the efficiency of the propeller and the gearing allows us to only pull a very small amount of current. So that because of that, we can use batteries that have very long duration, but low discharge.
Ryan, how fast do they charge?
So just the charge rate, normally you charge them, if you don't have to charge them fast, you can charge them over a couple hours. But you can charge them like with a quick charge rate. So yeah, a pouch cell, normally you charge at like 1C, but since there's so much capacity, there's very few chargers that could actually match that on like a normal drone battery anyways. So it will charge in like an hour or two. But if you want really high charge rate, if that's a thing, then you can get battery cells that also charge really fast, but you're going to lose some capacity on that.
See, that's a powerful threshold to cross, because when you're going out on a mission, and you bring extra batteries with you. I used to bring a ton because they only lasted like 20 minutes. And so I would be cycling through. I'm sure all you drone pilots have experienced the same thing. Now, in this case, given the fact that it flies longer than it takes you to recharge a battery, you're going to be, that's a threshold that is very meaningful to we drone pilots. I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No, that was good. So just to add one more thing to this, if you're not familiar with Modovolo, one of our core value proposition and the name of the company is around modification, being modular. And so on this slide, you see 3 examples of how you can reconfigure the drone like a Lego kit. So the quad is just 4 lift pods. If you need to lift more, then you simply add more lift pods to it, and your lift capacity goes up. These are just 3 examples. There are lots of others, but that's the core premise of the company. I'm going to keep moving unless there are questions.
I kind of have a little bit of input. And Tim, you look like you're around our vintage, so you might remember a company called Impossible Aircraft.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, I
Impossible
don't.
But they had the batteries in the airframe, and we bought 2 of them because the idea was to switch out the aircraft while you're charging and use 2 aircraft, and you could fly 24 hours a day. And they're kind of bricks sitting in my shop right now because it didn't end up working. But that's another option. If the aircraft's inexpensive enough, you just switch the whole aircraft out.
Yeah,
that's such a great point. And Mario, I think you're on the call, who's doing surveillance for the Hawthorne Police Department. That would be huge. He has 2 drones now. He's got 24-hour monitoring for effectively the price of a Matrix 350. You know, which again, for the law enforcement, that's going to just absolutely be huge.
cool. I'm going to keep going. Stop me at any time. All right. How would I power a sensor is the next question.
Yeah, so all the batteries are distributed, but they become one battery. We put them all in parallel. And so that parallel connection meets at the center of the drone. So you'll have the full voltage of the flight batteries available in the payload or utility area. So then you could either use the voltage directly there or convert it to whatever voltage you need.
Cool. I'll move on. Seems like no questions. PPK support. The answer is yes, but
so we've looked into this, and I've got friends in the industry, but basically we'd like to know more about what specific sensor and payload and software solution. And it's, you know, it's Arty Pilot, Arty Copter. So if it can fly with that, then we should be able to integrate it, and it should work fine.
yeah, but
Just for those that don't know what PPK stands for, I'm sorry, I'm the acronym police. What does PPK stand for?
I don't know that, man.
Oh,
you called us out. We don't know.
describe the function then.
It's like it has like RTK functionality. So it is Jackson.
It was like a post-process type of thing.
Processing software that helps with the
Kinematics.
positioning.
Yeah.
It would take data points on where you are and then clean up the LiDAR data. Trying to remember the name of it.
Yeah. But the nut of it is that we are going to research this more and get back to you. And so we will distribute an answer.
Post-processing kinematics.
Post-processing kinematics.
There you go. Okay, thanks.
All right. So Tim, I think we're handing off to you now.
Yeah, the
Okay.
big question for you, Tim, is when is this thing going to be available for pilots?
Well, that's a good teaser, Scotty. I'll get there. But for now, the company is just getting ready. And really, this webinar is wrapped around this, you know, cool milestone that we're getting ready to send out the alpha version to a team other than the engineers who have been the ones testing and building. So yeah, I get to be the lucky guy that gets my hand on one of those things, get my hands on them, Spencer and I. And so that's going to be sent out here, and I'm going to go through the testing process as defined by UCSC. They have a drone department, and they have a list of all the different paces that we're going to put it through. But my goal with me using it is to be able to better inform the rest of those alpha testers about some of the nuances and the various things that I ran into that I need further testing on. So that's going to be the alpha phase, and then the beta phase, which is, you know, I think where it starts to get really fun. We'll aggregate the data from alpha, build those in, and that's when we're going to be ready to start shipping the beta to the folks that have had interest in being part of that very early adopter phase. And of course, that's going to, the beta testers are going to be part of the family. So they're going to effectively have this relationship with the company that's going to enable them to have access to the webinars, access to the engineers and the whole team, basically. It's not going to, you're going to have to be a really qualified pilot to be a beta tester. You know, you're going to have to be comfortable with ArduPilot, ArduCopter, the ground station controls, and you know, and ideally, you know, I'd like to see, like, you know, 300 or 400 flight hours as part of your, you know, in your logbook, but that's not a hard requirement. But that's going to be the beta phase, and we, Spencer and I, are building out a communications portal that, you know, is a little apart from all of the Modovolo pilots, both alpha, beta, and production, pre-production, the folks that are going to get the production drone, where you'll have like a Discord channel where you could talk, you know, amongst yourselves and amongst the company executives. But we will have a way for all the beta pilots to just type into our website through the portal, hey, I had this happen, I had that happen, and it's just going to all be assimilated that way. So it'll be well organized for our beta pilots to be able to provide the feedback and provide the guidance for engineering. And then and we're projecting that to be I think, Justin, we were thinking Q1, Q2 of 2025, yeah. Right? That's okay. Yeah. And then finally, the production version that we are wanting a group. You know, when Tesla came out, I've been into roadsters my whole life, and they allowed me to put $250 down to be among the first to get that. God, I think they were selling it for $120,000 or something back then. It was something crazy. And anyway, I was one of those guys that put down the $250 because I love roadsters, and this was revolutionary. It's 0 to 60 was something that just we haven't seen before in a production vehicle. And that's really what we are trying to do here with trying to encourage folks to be able to put the $50 deposit down and lock in your position as getting one of the first Motovolos that are going to, you know, come off of the production line. So that
the Founder Series, we're calling them, Tim. Founder Series.
Founder Series. Thank you. That's our marketing guy right there, ladies and gentlemen. Scott.
Well,
Scott
Orion and Justin are going to literally sign the drones and the final QA before it's shipped. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, hang on to that, you guys, because that's going to be worth big money. He's like Henry Ford of our era in aeronautics. So yes,
very collectible. Yeah.
Or not.
But you could see the discounts. You know, Justin, pull back. That's. I just want to put the emphasis on that. You know, we're already intending to be twice the flight time, half the cost of the competition we're taking on. You know, Americans versus the Chinese, basically, is really how we have framed it, and we have a lot of faith in Americans. And you could see that this, you know, those that are willing to, you know, co-invest with us, to, you know, take that leap that we're going to be able to do what it is we say we're going to do. They're going to get, you know, not twice the Matrix 350 at half the price. They're going to get you know, at you know, a 3/4 discount effectively if you're one of those 20% discount guys. Okay, Justin, I'm ready for you to advance that. So yes, that's where we are. That we're getting their alphas coming out, 5 of them, 6 of them. We're going to make that to try to make it as easy on the beta testers as humanly possible. Beta testers, we plan to start shipping Q1, Q2. You know, it really that will be a huge part of when we can start doing the production drone. And we have that targeted for you know, the pre-orders. We want to start delivering them at the last half of next year. So that is where we are with regard to the vehicle.
All right, that's it from a formal standpoint. The rest of this can be Q&A, or we can just
Also,
sit.
we can by request, if there's anything that we want to have Jackson and Orion out with the drone, anything you'd like to see. I mean, by request, this is, you know, hotline by request. We've got 5 or 6 minutes. So if there's anything you'd like to see done with the drone, feel free to raise your hand, put it in the chat, or just speak. We've got time. So Doug, you've got a question.
I do. What is your estimated payload capacity? What can these things lift?
So we have the tech specs on the website if you really want to get into the, you know, fine details of it. Normally you want to have 50 to 60% hover throttle, and so that sheet should the production version should be able to achieve basically that tech spec and more, because people are wanting more payload, and this version it focused exclusively like on flight time. So we're going to use a motor that's slightly more, only slightly heavier, but 3 to 4 times more powerful. So this one is, you know, the 1 to 2 kilogram probably, and that we have more testing to do with that. But the production version.
When you say this one, we're talking about the prototype that you are seeing flying, 1 to 2 kilograms, but that's not the production version.
Yeah.
You're explaining the production version.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So the production version, the tech specs list the production version at just north of 5 pounds of payload for the quad, and the quad is the one we're releasing first. Doug,
Oh,
you're
you muted, Doug.
Sorry.
There you
Is there like a standard mounting configuration for the payloads? How are you going to accommodate people lifting different things?
Great question.
So we are bringing on a payload specialist. There's an engineer we're going to bring on in the next week or two. And so that answer is we won't have an answer today, but it is something we're very focused on. And so I think by the next webinar, we'll have a good answer for you.
So I will say there's a free fly and Arty Pilot. It's called the Smart Dovetail Mount. And it seems like the industry is kind of centralizing around that. And that seems like a good mounting solution for most payloads.
Yeah. We probably will do that plus some custom configs.
Yeah.
Awesome. Doug, did we answer your question?
Yes, you
So-
did. Thank you.
Awesome. Chris Williams, Christopher has a question.
Just quickly, if you can't see the drone flying, it's one of the video feeds. So you might have to like cruise around and try to see it. It's under my name, Justin Call. Actually, I'll pin it right here. Can everyone see it now?
Yeah, why don't you put it up on the big screen, Justin?
Yeah, I'll stop sharing screen.
I
Everyone's-
see it, but there's blue sky, so now I'm confused. It doesn't look like it's in Central New York.
It does not look like upstate New York. It's a fake background. All right, sorry, we've got a lot of
I don't see it.
Christopher
I don't see it,
Williams.
Justin.
Yeah,
You
so
don't see
Yeah, Chris, go ahead while we're pulling it
yes,
up. Yeah.
LCFD here. So I was wondering, what are the applications and capabilities in terms of the fire service, in terms of fireground operations, search and rescue applications, things like that?
Oh, Tim, former firefighter. Maybe that's a good question for you.
Yeah, well, given the fact that it's got that time in the air without having to take it off of the scene. I think it's going to have applications for structure fire. You could just be hovering over it with a thermal sensor and being able to see the hot spots. Obviously, a big one is, with the firefighters, in the situations where they need to cut a ventilation hole, one of the biggest risks for them is a hot spot that they can't really tell is there, and they fall through the roof because the structural integrity has been compromised. So that's going to be a big application, make us all feel better when we're having to do that particular operation. But wildland is going to be a big one too, because obviously those are hard to reach places. And, if you have to really push that thing out 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers, you're looking at, you got to bring it right back if you're flying our competitors' drone. So given the fact that you got 2 hours, it's going to increase the efficacy of using a drone with the fire ops.
Awesome.
Is there, Christopher, do you have any specific applications that you deal with that you are curious about?
Yeah, so primarily what we do, and I'm also on the Mississippi Task Force as well. So we do a ton of search and rescue applications, and of course with things as everyone's familiar with the hurricanes and all that, damage assessment, missing persons, stuff like that. And then of course you explain kind of the structural side of things, but we use it more so on the wildland side. So the thermal capability and high thermal capability is very important to us, and how we use it, especially how the heat can be here in the state of Mississippi and humidity that can affect the temperature readings during the summer months, as well as the dense nature of the forest as well. So a high capable or high technical capability on the thermal imaging and the, of course, capability of the drone itself, all the kind of the highest attributes that we look for in using the drones.
That's great. And it's funny that you say that, because all along I've been looking at this thing with that lens. There was opportunities that I could tell to use these drones, but with my Inspire, it just wasn't practical given the fact that I had to bring that damn thing back to home every 15 minutes. It was just ridiculous. And again, I was experimenting on behalf of our fire department. But yeah, that was the biggest limitation. And so when I heard about this thing staying in the air that long, that was the first thing that came to mind. Oh my God, fire services, search and rescue. That's going to be a great use case. Hey, Justin, are we talking? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask Christopher a question, but you have.
Well, I just wanted to ask you if we are yet talking about one of the early beta folks' ability to actually be one of the first to have exclusive rights to a geography or a use case to be able to customize. The advantage of ArduCopter and ArduPilot means that you can co-opt this drone to be able to do very specific things, and the other side of the manufacturing process, where we are using these printers, somebody out there is going to go, hey, I want to be the fire services guy, so I need the drone to do this, and this. And with ArduPilot, you're going to be able to support the this, and this thing with both the software as well as the hardware, printing pieces out that have modifications that make it more compatible with the software side to do the missions that are unique to your use case.
Yeah. I think,
Justin, I'm not seeing the screen of the in-flight.
yeah, I don't know what's going on. I do have it. Oh, I have it pinned for myself.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And I know a couple of hands got raised. Thank you guys for staying over. I know we're at the bottom of the hour, but we're certainly happy to stay on as long as you guys want to be on. Christopher and Rob, you've got a question. Let's hear from you, Rob. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Scott. I was just going to comment a little bit on the use cases. One of the things that I saw, and I think it might have been a Brink ad if I'm not mistaken, one of the use cases was for first responders and EMS getting first aid out to people, especially in remote areas. So I just wanted to add that on with what Tim was talking about there, because that seems like another good purpose for a drone that can actually stay in the air for 2 hours. Is not only does it drop off the first aid, it can actually stay there and monitor the situation until help actually arrives.
That's just great. That's just
Brilliant.
great.
Brilliant. Awesome. I noticed Daryl had to drop off, but while I'm moderating, it's a question that maybe everybody else would love to know. Probably it's a question for Orion. Is Gremsy going to be the go-to for the gimbal? Orion, do you have a preference in terms of that component?
Yeah, I mean, Gremsy has the lighter the gimbal and the sensor, obviously, the more flight time you're going to get, and so that's kind of that's the limiting factor, at least for like infrared or IR, and if you want to see both of them at the same time. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the one we'll start with.
Yep. Okay.
And then if there's others that come available, I mean, there are some that have the gimbal built in, with the camera. So
awesome. Christopher, did you have a follow-up question? I wanted to make sure we got all your attention. Yeah.
I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier in the chat too. So how's the process work to sign up as a beta tester, either as an individual or organization like the fire department, for example?
Yeah, so it's by invite only, and if you're interested in that, I'll have Tim reach out to you directly and have that discussion.
Okay, awesome.
I look forward to that, Christopher. That's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So, Christopher, question for you. One thing that we learned from the military guys, and we were initially offended by this, they said, that's really cool. Your drone is disposable. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a compliment. And he said, yeah, it is a compliment. Meaning that, if it's cheap enough or inexpensive enough, the military doesn't really care about it, where they would care about a $40,000 to $50,000 to $60,000 drone. They're more than okay with a drone that costs $2,000-$3,000 getting destroyed. Is that a similar view for the public safety group?
Yeah, I would definitely lean more towards that, especially, and I'm sure Tim's knows. So, majority of fire departments in the U.S., roughly 70 or so percent, currently are still volunteer, and it depends on the municipality, the area that they're in. How much funds they're getting. Are they public funded? Donation, all that type of stuff. So a lot of these departments who may have use for this type of application, but just can't afford it at a higher price point. I think that is very important, especially in the fire service that we're in today and kind of the financial side looking at it.
Yep.
Yeah, we're always having to pass these bond measures. Do you have that in Mississippi too, Christopher?
We do.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
don't,
And then
we don't have that in New York State at all. That never happens.
Yeah, and we're also I'm also involved in an agricultural company as well, Understanding Ag, and we currently work in over 50 million acres worldwide in 47 different other countries, and we're exploring into a lot of drone applications and surveying, a lot of RTK and all that as well. So we will also have an expanding application and use in the agricultural sector, especially over our expansive network that we have. So we'd love to work with y'all in terms of that side and developing for agricultural use.
Awesome.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Are you familiar with Ag Launch?
Just slightly, I am.
That so we are working with them on a focus on it with their farmer network. We don't have a formal channel partner agreement in place yet, but that's kind of in the pipeline. I see there are other questions here.
Yeah, Andrew's got a question. Andrew, what about videography, photography aspects for professional filmmaking? Certainly love to think about what's that use case and how would we answer that?
Can I take a crack at that?
Sure, Tim.
Because when we were doing production quality things, had to fly those missions as well. Those cameras are both heavy and expensive when you're getting that ridiculously, high def stuff that the production folks want in, producing those things. And so, you obviously, if you've done this, and I'm sure because you hang with Skip and Tim, and they've got that Hollywood drones thing, Andrew, I remember that. The fact that you'd be able to just have that drone stay up there, you're getting tons of footage in the can, and it typically is a ratio of, like 60 to 90 minutes for every 1 minute you produce of the actual content. So to me, it seems like it's going to be a huge advantage to not have to break off any of the stuff that's going on the ground. You know, the actors, the different pieces of this puzzle, they all cost money. So when you're pulling the drone in to change the battery, you're also still paying all of the folks on the set to wait for it to come back and film. So I think that's going to be, it's going to save a lot of money for the production folks.
Yeah, I was going to reference to, Justin, I know Justin's a prolific writer, and I know that one of the articles that you wrote, commercial, was about the videographer that did the Sphere in Las Vegas and some of his challenges from an administration standpoint, how he went through the bureaucracy of red tape, but also I think he saw the benefit, Tim, to your point, of a drone like this in terms of the amount of footage that he had to film and the manpower that he had to put in to produce literally a 2-minute National Geographic final product.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you think about, if you watch a film production crew on site, they've got that really tall crane that they have to have that there because, they need to have that thing rolling. They can't have it suddenly stop for 10 minutes. And so I think you might even find some instances where they're not even having to bring that ridiculous piece of equipment out there for some of the stuff that they're used to having to bring it out there. Kind of like, when some of us got into the drone thing, we were replacing helicopters for some of these glamour shots of some of these places. So, they're used to paying like $2,000, $3,000 an hour. And now suddenly, hey, we've got this for you for hundreds instead of thousands.
One other thing on our event we did last Friday, and Scott, I'll introduce you to them, promo drones. So it's a big, it might be 6 of the modules, it might be 8, but it's a big drone with monitors on either side.
Wow.
And so it's just like the Goodyear blimp, and although on the planes, it monitors whatever commercial you want, Red Bull, T-Mobile, whatever. So this would be a great addition for them.
Yeah.
Because they don't, he had to fly up and down all the time, change the battery out.
No, I was wondering how they pull off the light shows. I see these drone light shows, which are fascinating. I'm wondering, how do they pull those things off? It's just
computer.
Yeah. Constellation. And FYI, they had, I think it was Pablo Air at the UAV Expo. And I just think it's a fun fact that it's about $50,000 to rent those things to do a light show for 15 minutes of airtime. Wow. And compared that to, it's probably about $15,000 to $20,000 to put on your typical municipal fireworks show.
Ryan had a few comment on that.
So I just wanted to point out the flight time on the screen for a mission planner there. That's the current local time in the top right. So don't look at that. But I have it on my remote control. So we're at 52 minutes of flight time. And the battery voltage is 14.9. It's a 4S, so that's 3.7 volts per cell. And so the on-mission planner in the HUD there, in the bottom left corner of the HUD, you can see the total voltage and the amperage. And the amperage is for 1 lift pod, so multiply that by 4.
Can you share that screen, Justin?
I will have to learn how to do that for the next webinar, because it's when I pick, it is shared. It is a screen. You have to kind of probably toggle around to find it. It says Orion Mangio.
Orion, put finger puppets on for me. When you think of it like the battery icon on my iPhone, you've been running at 52 minutes. What would the battery icon look like if it were, that same kind of concept with regard to this drone?
It'd be over 50% still, and it's
of
not really
capacity.
So I mean, your voltage the curve is pretty steep at the end. It's going to drop off pretty aggressively. So it's it's about halfway. I would call it right now.
Nice.
Yep. So just wanted to point that out.
Other questions? Rob, thank you for Rob, you want to talk a little bit about Net Green?
Yeah, sure. I'll take this time. I'll just mention it quick.
Yeah.
So we're helping Modovolo raise additional financing. They're doing this through the form of revenue sharing notes. You can find out more about what that is and everything on the offering page. I shared it in the chat. So go check that out. And so if you're interested in investing, that's a way you can participate now. And they'll pay out a multiple by a set maturity date. There's a revenue share percentage, so you can see like a sample distribution schedule when you see the go to the offering page, and that's under regulation crowdfunding, so anyone and everyone can participate.
Thanks, Rob. Yep. We're not on Kickstarter. We're not on any of those. This is Net Green is our partner.
Yeah,
So thank
that's
you, Rob.
right.
Yeah. Well, I know we're running late. Justin, any final comments before I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. It's about 1:45, so we've had a few had to drop off, but any final statements or any burning topics that you feel like you wanted to leave with everybody with?
No burning topics, but really appreciate everyone joining. Again, if we're going to keep this feed open so you can check it out to see the flight time duration of the prototype in this very windy day in upstate New York. But that's about it.
All right.
Really appreciate everyone joining.
Thanks, everyone. I'll share out the deck with everybody. We really appreciate your time this morning, and we look forward to our plan is to do these about twice a quarter. So we'll make sure and invite you guys for our next in the series, and really appreciate everyone's commitment and participation today. So have a great one.
Yeah, and the recordings will be on the website. If you want to refer anybody to what we talked about today, within about a week, it'll be on the site. So just point them to our site.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you. Tim, are you going to reach out via email?
Yes, sir, Christopher. I sure will.
Yes, sir. I look forward to it.
All right.
Me too. Me too.
Thanks,
It's going to be fun.
everyone.
Okay. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.